Thank you, brother. I asked Brother Anthony if I could speak a word. You know, it was many months ago, I remember Brother Anthony's parents were here, and of course we all know how highly he thinks of his parents. And I remember he was talking about how he was brought up in a godly home, and just all the good things, and I believed it. But you know what came to mind when you said that? You can, is the mic on, or I'm just not talking loud enough? But what came to mind was, not everybody is raised in a godly home. And not everybody is really deeply loved. And for a child, that's extremely painful. That's extremely painful. But you know what came to mind was this. You know, in the scripture it says, God says this. It said, would a mother who's nursing her little baby, would she abandon that child? And what you're thinking he's going to say, in the same way, a mother wouldn't abandon her child, nor would I you. But he doesn't say that. He says, though a mother who's nursing her baby may abandon her child, he said, I will never abandon you. He actually said this. He said, you are engraved on the palms of my hands. He said, your walls are ever before me. That means the very essence of your being is always right before him. And that's what came to mind. I wish everyone came from a loving family, but it doesn't always happen that way. And I'll be honest, dear sister, this was a few months after that. There was Pastor Appreciation Day. And I remember our dear sister, I don't know your name, but she stood up and she said, yeah, I met Brother Anthony about 30 years ago. And she said something that really struck me. She talked about how loving he was, and she said, I had never known love. And you know what that said to me? She's gone through a really hard time. She's gone through a lot of suffering. And it reminded me of the same thing. Not everyone comes from a loving background. And but here's what I wanted to say. You know, the tendency is when you come from a family where you're not loved, or possibly in a marriage where you're not loved. It can be a husband who's not loved by his wife. It can be a wife who's not loved by her husband. Because I was thinking when I was here on Valentine's Day, that Brother Anthony spoke of how devoted and loving and kind Sheila was to him. And I believe it, dear sister. But not everybody has that. Not everybody has that. Was it John Wesley? I believe it was, the one who founded the Methodist Church. It was known. I mean, publicly, his wife would rail at him and embarrass him, you know. And yet he would mount his horse and go out on his rounds. I mean, it is wonderful if people can have this beautiful, loving relationship. But I tell you, you can be a man of God and still go through some terrible times. But here's what I want to say to you, to give you, I believe this is true. The word says, God is a father to the fatherless. If you can, rather than be bitter and sour because you came from a very difficult time, or whether it could be a difficult home, could be a very difficult marriage, but if you can really come before God and lay it at his feet, lay it at Jesus' feet, and say, I'm broken inside, and you come to him, he will literally Fill that void. Now, here's the part that's amazing. No matter how good the mother and father, they're not as good as our Father. No matter how good the husband, they're not as good as him. Because I believe this, Anthony. Not only is he a mother to the motherless, a father to the fatherless, I believe if you're in a marriage where you feel unloved, he will be your beloved. I believe that, dear brother. I believe it. I believe it, that if you will turn it over to him, you've actually been allowed to go to a place beyond what other people have, because God himself will be your father. He will be your mother. He will be your beloved husband. He will be your beloved wife. I mean, maybe that sounds strange, but I believe that. He will fill not only the void, but he will take you to a place that others do not even experience. And that's what I want to encourage you with.